right, guys, if you will go and grab your new note packet, we're starting Unit 5, which is Graphing Systems of Equations and Inequalities. It's actually all systems of equations. And we're going to go ahead and get started. Today, we're going to be working on graphing by hand, and then you'll see a trick another day. So, if you will, make sure you're on Notes 5-1. A system of equations is just two or more equations with the same variable. Okay, now there are two types of solutions. We're going to be working graphically for 2 days, and then we'll move over to algebraically, but you need to know both. Graphically is the point xy where the two lines intersect. So you're going to be drawing two lines. Where do they touch? Algebraically, you're going to be having to solve a math problem, and it's the point that makes both equations true. So if you plug the numbers in, it'll make a true statement. Okay, so there are three types of solutions. We're going to start first with our intersecting lines. You can have two lines, and they can just cross it anywhere at any angle, and the point they touch would be the solution. So your solution would be written as an order pair, x comma y. You could have parallel lines, and in the last unit, we learned parallel lines have the same slope, so they never touch. So you use the no solution symbol, or you may write the words. The last type of answer you could have would be same line. So that's going to be my first line. And since it's the same line, that means you are drawing a line in the exact same spot. You just can't see it because it's underneath the other line. Therefore, the solution is infinite many solutions. And we write this out instead of using the infinity symbol because infinity is talking about a set of numbers. We're talking about solutions, order pairs that would go together. So it's not the same thing. Now, when we're solving systems by graphing, this takes 3 steps. The first step is to get into slope-intercept form. And remember, slope-intercept form is just y equals mx plus b. Okay, step 2 is to graph the lines. And step 3 is to find and write the solution. Most of the time, the solution is going to be an order pair. Occasionally, you'll have no solution or infinitely many. This one doesn't happen very often, but it could happen. So the first thing that we're going to do, we're just going to do the evens together. You have to make sure that they're in y equals. If they're not in y equals, then they're not graph ready. So what you're going to do first is make sure it's y equals, and the first equation is, so I'm going to come out to the side and write what m equals and what b equals. Remember, m is the number with x, and b is the number by itself. You always take the sign in front of the number. So I'm going to start with 9 because we start with our y-intercept. So I'm going to go up to 9 on the y-intercept, which would be almost all the way to the top. And then I'm going to rise 1 and run 2. So since it's positive, we go up 1 and right 2. That's the only point I can get that way, so I reverse it, and I'm going to go down 1 and left 2. And I'm going to repeat until I can't get any more points. Now that I've done that, I draw my line in. And if you're a color-coordinated person to where it makes it a little bit easier, I'm going to switch colors for the second line. Now I have y equals negative x plus 6. Again, this is in y equals, so I'm going to write m equals and b equals. Well, the number before x is negative 1, and b has a 6. Now, when I'm working with slope, I like it as a fraction. So you can always turn anything into a fraction by putting 1 on the bottom. So now this tells me to start my line at 6, and that I'm going down 1 and right 1, down 1 and right 1. So you can see as I draw my dots, which I'm going to get all of them, that this is going to create a negative line, which it should because my slope is negative. I go back to the original dot and up 1 and left 1. and finish getting the points that I can get. As you draw in your line, you should see that the lines intersect, and they intersect at a point, and that point is right here. And the location of that point, and remember, to find a point, you go left or right, and then up or down. So I will go left 2, and I go up 8. So my order pair would be -2, 8. Okay, we're going to flip to the back. For number 4, we have x plus 2y equals 4. Since that equation is not in y equals, I'm going to pull it down. X plus 2y equals 4, and I'm going to solve for y equals. To solve for y equals, step 1 is to move the x by changing the sign. So I'm going to move the x by making it negative. It cancels over here to leave me with 2y equals, and then since both these pieces don't have x, they don't combine, so I have a -1x plus 4. Now I have to divide by the number in front of y, so I divide everything by 2, and that gives me y equals. Now, some people make this mistake often in the calculator. When you do -1 and you divide it by 2, it gives you -0.5. So if you convert that back to a fraction, it's -1/2. And then you keep x, and then 4 divided by 2 is 2. The number in M spot is -1/2, and the number in B spot is 2. So I am going to start my graph up at 2. And then I'm going to go down 1 and right 2, down 1 and right 2. And I'm going to keep going down 1 and right 2 until I can't get any more points. And then I'm going to go back to the original, and I'm going to go up 1 and left 2, up 1 and left 2 until I can't get any more points. And I draw my line in. Okay. Now my other equation is y equals -1/2 x plus 2. That's already in y equals, so my M is -1/2 and my B is 2. So again, I start this line at 2, and that tells me to go down 1 and right 2, down 1 and right 2. And if you notice, this line follows the points exactly, so that means this line is underneath the other line. So the line is on top of each other, so that means they touch everywhere. So your solution would be infinite many solutions. Remember, we don't use the infinite symbol because infinite symbol is talking about numbers, where we're talking about order pairs. Okay, moving to number 6, I have y equals x plus 5. Since this is in y equals, I'm going to write what m equals, and m has a 1, and I like it as a fraction, so over 1, and b is 5. I'm going to start my line up 5. And 1 over 1 tells me to go up 1, right 1, up 1, right 1. Keep going till you can't get any more points. And then reverse it and go down 1, left 1, down 1, left 1. I'm going to draw my line in. And then for my other one, x minus y equals 2, the first thing I've got to do is get the y by itself. So we move the x by changing its sign, which means we minus x. It cancels there to leave me with a -1y. You can't throw that negative sign out. And it equals a -1x plus 2. And then I divide by the number in front of y, so we divide by -1. When I divide by -1, I get y equals -1 divided by -1 is +1, keep x, and 2 divided by -1 is -2. My m for this one would be 1, and to write it as a fraction, just put it over 1. And my b would be -2. So I'm going to go down and start at -2. Then I'm going to rise 1 and run 1, rise 1 and run 1. Okay, I also need to go back to the original, reverse, drop 1, left 1, drop 1, left 1. Now, if you remember from the last unit, you can see as you're drawing these that these are parallel lines. But if you would have looked at your math, the slopes were the same. And if slopes are the same, you know they're going to be parallel. So therefore, this has no solution because they never intersect. Okay, for number 8, I have x equals -2. Now, since this is the only letter that's graph ready, I know we always want it in y equals, but I don't have a y. So we go to the x-axis at -2. And when it's x, we draw a vertical line. When it's y, we draw a horizontal line. Okay, then I have to solve the other equation for y equals, so we move the x by changing the sign. That leaves me with negative 2y equals negative 3x minus 18. And then I divide by the number in front of y. When you use your calculator, this fraction right here will give you a decimal. Just convert it back to a fraction, and it becomes 3 halves x, and negative 18 divided by negative 2 is positive 9. So my slope is 3 over 2, and my y-intercept is 9. So I'm going to start up at 9, and remember that was the dot almost all the way at the top. And then the slope tells me to go up 3 and right 2. Well, I can't go up 3, right 2. So I have to completely reverse it and go down 3, left 2. Down 3, left. That was 1, left 2. Down 3, left 2. Down 3, left 2. I can get one more dot and then draw in my line. Okay, as you can see, again, they intersect right here, and that point falls at negative 2, 6. And now you should do a quick check because they told you x is negative 2. So if you don't have your x as negative 2, you are doing something wrong. Okay, so if you have questions, please let me know.